Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to Comics By. Tonight, find a soft pillow, relax your body, close your eyes gently, and let the warm light of this story wrap around you like a soft blanket. Now, let us travel deep into a glowing jungle. Far beyond busy towns, far away from loud streets, there was a jungle that shimmered softly at night. The trees there were tall and kind. Their leaves glowed faintly like tiny green stars. Fireflies floated lazily in the warm air. The river nearby whispered gentle lullabies as it flowed over smooth stones. And in the very heart of this magical jungle, there stood a small wooden hut. It was simple, made of old brown wood, with a roof covered in soft moss. Tiny yellow flowers grew near its doorstep. Inside this hut lived a small family. There was Daniel, the gentle father. He had warm eyes and a calm voice that always felt safe. There was Mira, the loving mother. She hummed soft songs while cooking and moved like quiet sunshine. And there was little Oliver, their curious son, only 7 years old, with bright eyes that sparkled like fireflies. But the most special thing inside the hut was not the wooden table, not the rocking chair, not even the cozy bed near the window. It was an old lantern. The lantern hung from a wooden beam in the center of the hut. It was made of bronze. Its glass was slightly foggy from age, and its flame burned with a soft golden glow. But this lantern was not ordinary. It had a secret. Every night, when someone nearby in the jungle felt sad, the lantern shone brighter. Daniel had discovered this many years ago. One evening, long before Oliver was born, the lantern had suddenly glowed intensely. The next morning, they found an injured bird outside their hut. Since then, the family understood. The lantern was not just light, it was a guide, a quiet helper, a soft signal of sadness. And whenever it glowed brighter, the family would follow its light, because they believed something very simple. If someone is sad and you can help, then you must try. Every night before sleeping, Mira would gently clean the lantern's glass. Oliver would sit beside her and ask, "Do you think it will shine tonight?" And she would smile softly. "If someone needs us, it will." The jungle at night was peaceful. Crickets sang slowly. The air smelled of wet leaves and sweet flowers. Fireflies blinked like tiny floating stars. The lantern's glow painted warm golden circles on the wooden walls. Daniel would sit by the window, listening carefully, not for danger, but for quiet sadness. Because sadness is often very soft. It hides in small sounds, a broken branch, a tiny whimper, a sigh carried by the wind. Most nights, the lantern glowed gently, calm, steady, warm. And that meant all was well. But kindness was the true light of that hut. Sometimes they helped a lost squirrel. Sometimes they shared food with a tired traveler. Sometimes they simply left fresh water outside for thirsty animals. And every time they helped, the lantern glowed warmly, almost proudly. Oliver once asked his father, "Why does the lantern care if someone is sad?" Daniel smiled. "Maybe," he said softly, It doesn't like darkness in the heart. That night, as the family prepared for sleep, the jungle breeze gently brushed the hut. Mira blew out the candles. Only the lantern remained glowing softly. Oliver snuggled into his blanket. The jungle hummed its peaceful lullaby, and everything felt safe, for now. Because deep in the forest, something small, something frightened, was about to change everything. But that is for the next part of our story. For now, breathe slowly. Imagine the warm golden lantern, the quiet jungle, the gentle fireflies. Let your heart feel soft, because tonight we are in a place where kindness shines brighter than fear. The night settled gently over the glowing jungle. Inside the wooden hut, everything felt calm and golden. Daniel secured the windows softly. Mira folded the last of the blankets. Oliver curled beneath his quilt near the fireplace. The lantern hung from the wooden beam, glowing softly, steady and peaceful. Outside, the jungle breathed slowly. Crickets sang in careful rhythm. Leaves brushed against one another like quiet whispers. The river hummed its distant lullaby. It felt like any other night, until the lantern moved. At first, it was only the smallest tremble. The flame inside tilted slightly. Daniel noticed. He paused near the table. The flame straightened, then flickered again, not from wind. The door was closed, the windows sealed. The air inside the hut was still. Mira looked up slowly. The lantern dimmed for half a second, then glowed brighter. Oliver lifted his head from his pillow. "Papa?" Daniel stepped closer to the lantern. The bronze frame shimmered faintly. The glass reflected shifting light onto the wooden walls. The flame flickered again, but this time it stretched taller, longer, more urgent. The shadows in the room began to move softly, dancing along the ceiling. Mira's voice dropped to a whisper. "It's stronger than usual." The lantern pulsed, bright, dim, bright again, like a heartbeat, but faster. Oliver climbed out of bed quietly and stood beside his parents. The jungle outside suddenly felt quieter, as if listening. The crickets slowed, the wind softened. Even the river's sound seemed farther away. The lantern flared suddenly, filling the hut with a deep golden glow. Not harsh, but intense, urgent. Daniel's expression changed. "This isn't small sadness," he said gently. The flame twisted inside the glass, leaning slightly toward the door, then flickering wildly, as if pointing. Mira wrapped a shawl around her shoulders. Oliver held his father's hand tightly. The lantern pulsed again, bright enough to warm the air. Daniel opened the wooden door. Cool jungle air flowed in, fresh, earthy, carrying the scent of moss and damp soil. The lantern's light spilled outward, forming a golden path across the forest floor. The trees ahead shimmered faintly in moonlight. Fireflies floated like drifting sparks, but something felt different tonight. Heavier. The lantern flickered rapidly now, not steady at all. Oliver swallowed softly. "Someone's very sad," he whispered. Daniel nodded. "Yes." They stepped outside. The lantern remained hanging inside the doorway, yet its glow stretched farther than it ever had before, lighting their path clearly. Each step into the jungle made the flame jump again, faster, more restless. The leaves beneath their feet made soft crunching sounds. The air felt still, waiting. Then, very faintly, a sound.
so small it almost disappeared into the night. A thin cry, broken, trembling. Oliver stopped walking. "Did you hear that?" Mira tilted her head. There it was again, a tiny sob. The lantern flared brighter instantly, as if responding to the sound. Daniel followed the direction of the glow, through low branches, past glowing moss patches, around the roots of an ancient tree. The cry came again, weak, lonely. The lantern's flame now flickered wildly, casting long moving shadows through the trees. They approached a small clearing. The golden light reached into a cluster of bushes. Something moved, small, curled, shaking. Another soft cry. Mira stepped forward slowly. Daniel held his father's lantern higher, and the light revealed it clearly. A baby deer, its legs thin and fragile, its fur damp with dew, its large eyes shining with tears. It was trembling so hard its tiny body could barely stay upright. The lantern stopped flickering. Instead, it glowed steady and strong, almost protective. The baby deer tried to stand. Its legs wobbled. It stumbled slightly and let out a broken cry. Oliver's voice softened. "It's alone." Daniel looked around carefully. The clearing was empty. No sound of hooves, no mother nearby. Only silence. Heavy silence. The deer's breathing was quick and frightened. Every small sound made it flinch. But the lantern's golden glow wrapped gently around it, and slowly, very slowly, its trembling eased just a little. Mira knelt down. "It must have been calling for hours," she whispered. Oliver crouched beside her. "It's scared of the dark." Daniel spoke softly. "Not anymore." He moved closer carefully, giving the deer time to see him, time to understand. The lantern shone warmer now, not urgent, not wild, just steady. The baby deer let out one last soft sob, then lowered its head slightly, too tired to run, too exhausted to fear. Daniel gently slid his hands beneath its small body. It was lighter than he expected, fragile. Its heartbeat fluttered fast against his chest, but as the lantern's glow surrounded them, the heartbeat slowly began to calm. "You're safe," Mira whispered. The jungle breeze moved again, softly brushing the leaves. The crickets resumed their song. The river's whisper returned. The forest seemed to relax, because kindness had arrived. The lantern glowed brighter than ever before, not because sadness was near, but because someone had answered it. Daniel turned toward the hut. Oliver walked beside him carefully. Mira followed close behind. The golden light stretched ahead, guiding them home. Tonight, the lantern had not simply flickered, it had called, and the family had listened. As they reached the hut doorway, the lantern's flame steadied into a deep, warm glow. The wild flickering was gone, the urgency replaced by quiet assurance. They stepped inside. The door closed gently, and the jungle night returned to peace. But something had changed. A small life had been carried out of darkness, and the lantern burned proudly above them. The story was only beginning.
The wooden door of the jungle hut closed softly behind them. Inside, the warm golden lantern glowed gently, no longer flickering wildly, but shining with steady reassurance. Daniel carefully laid the baby deer on a soft woven blanket near the fireplace. The little creature trembled again, its tiny legs folding beneath its fragile body. Its eyes were wide. Fear still lived inside them. Mira moved slowly, calmly, so she would not frighten it further. She placed another blanket around its small body. Oliver sat cross-legged nearby, watching quietly. The jungle sounds outside returned to normal. Crickets singing, wind brushing leaves, distant water flowing. But inside the hut, everything felt very still, very careful. The lantern's glow wrapped around the baby deer like warm sunlight. Its breathing was fast, tiny, uneven. Daniel poured a little fresh water into a wooden bowl and gently placed it near the deer's mouth. At first, it didn't move. Then, slowly, cautiously, it sniffed. Its small tongue touched the water. A tiny sip, then another. Oliver smiled softly. "It's thirsty," he whispered. Mira nodded. "Yes, and very tired." The deer tried to stand again, but its legs shook too much. Daniel gently supported it. "It's very young," he said quietly. "Too young to be alone." The lantern brightened slightly at those words, almost as if agreeing. Oliver moved a little closer. It must be missing its mother. The baby deer made a soft, aching sound, not loud, but full of longing. The sound made Mira's heart ache. She sat beside it and began humming softly, the same lullaby she used to sing when Oliver was smaller. The melody was slow and smooth, like river water. The baby deer's breathing gradually slowed. Its trembling became smaller, less sharp. The lantern's flame steadied, warm, gentle. As minutes passed, the deer carefully rested its head against the folded blanket. Its large eyes blinked slowly, heavy, tired. But something else now lived in those eyes. Not just fear, but a tiny spark of safety. Oliver leaned closer. "Do you think it understands us?" he asked. Daniel smiled. "Maybe not our words," he said softly, "but it understands warmth." Outside, the moon rose higher above the glowing jungle. Silver light filtered through the small window. Fireflies drifted lazily past the glass. Inside, the hut felt like the safest place in the entire forest. The baby deer let out a small sigh, a different sound now. Not a cry, not a sob, just release. Daniel checked its legs carefully. There were no deep injuries, only small scratches and exhaustion. "It's been walking for a long time," he said quietly. Mira looked thoughtful. "Or running?" Oliver's eyes widened. "From what?" Daniel did not answer immediately. Sometimes the jungle held storms. Sometimes loud noises frightened animals. Sometimes young ones wandered too far while playing. The truth was unknown, but one thing was clear. This baby deer had felt alone, very alone. The lantern glowed slightly brighter again, but now it felt peaceful, almost proud. Oliver carefully reached out one small hand. The deer flinched at first, but then it didn't pull away. Its soft nose brushed lightly against Oliver's fingers. The touch was gentle, warm, alive. Oliver's face lit up quietly. "It's not scared anymore." Mira smiled, "because it knows we won't hurt it." Time passed slowly, peacefully. Daniel added a little more oil to the lantern. The flame responded with a soft golden shimmer. The deer's eyes began to close, then open, then close again. Finally, it drifted into sleep, its breathing deep and even now. The hut seemed to breathe with it. Oliver whispered, "What if its mother is looking for it?" The question floated softly in the warm air. Daniel looked toward the jungle through the window. "Then tomorrow," he said gently, "we will help them find each other." The lantern's flame flickered softly, not urgent, not wild, but thoughtful, as if it understood that kindness sometimes lasts more than one night. Mira covered the deer more securely with the blanket. Oliver lay down nearby on the floor, refusing to leave its side. Daniel sat in the rocking chair, watching both of them.
The jungle outside remained calm. No cries now, no sudden movement, only peaceful night sounds. The baby deer slept, safe. But somewhere beyond the trees, perhaps another heart was searching, and perhaps tomorrow the lantern would guide them again. The golden light dimmed slightly as the night grew deeper, not fading, just softening. The hut felt wrapped in warmth, wrapped in kindness, and for the first time since being found, the baby deer did not tremble at all. It dreamed, and in its dream, it was not alone. Let your breathing slow now. Imagine the lantern glowing softly above you. Imagine the jungle calm and kind. Tonight, a small life was protected, and tomorrow, kindness would walk even further into the forest.
Inside the wooden hut, the night felt softer than before. The lantern glowed steadily above, no longer wild, no longer urgent, just warm. Daniel gently placed the baby deer onto a thick woven blanket near the fireplace. The fire was small and calm, giving off a gentle orange light that mixed beautifully with the lantern's golden glow. The little deer trembled again, though not as violently as before. Its eyes moved quickly, scanning the unfamiliar room. Wooden walls, soft shadows, 3 quiet human faces watching with care. Mira moved slowly, lowering herself beside it so she wouldn't seem frightening. She placed another folded blanket lightly over its back. "You're safe here," she whispered. Her voice was as gentle as falling leaves. Oliver knelt a small distance away, watching every movement carefully. The deer's breathing was uneven, quick, shallow. Daniel poured a small bowl of clean water and slid it slowly across the floor toward the deer. At first, it only stared. Then its tiny nose twitched. It leaned forward slightly. One careful sip, then another. Its breathing slowed just a little. "That's it," Daniel said softly. "Take your time." The lantern's glow shimmered slightly brighter, as if pleased. Mira examined its legs carefully. There were small scratches, likely from thorns or rough branches. Nothing deep, nothing broken, just signs of a long, frightened journey. Oliver's eyes were filled with concern. "Do you think it lost its way?" he asked quietly. Daniel looked thoughtful. "Maybe," he said, "or maybe something frightened it. The jungle sometimes carried sudden storms, sometimes loud thunder, sometimes predators passed too close." The deer let out a small, aching sound, not loud, but filled with longing. Mira understood that sound. "It's missing its mother," she said softly. The word mother seemed to echo gently inside the hut. Oliver looked down at the deer. "I would be scared too." The lantern's flame flickered gently, not urgent, just aware. Mira began humming again, a slow, flowing lullaby. The melody wrapped around the room like warm silk. The deer's ears twitched at the sound. Its trembling lessened. Its body slowly relaxed into the blanket. Daniel dipped a clean cloth into warm water and carefully wiped the small scratches on its legs. The deer flinched at first, but Daniel's hands were steady, calm, reassuring. "It's all right," he whispered. Oliver carefully extended one small hand. The deer hesitated, then gently pressed its soft nose against his fingers. The touch made Oliver smile quietly. "It trusts us," he whispered. The lantern's golden light deepened. Outside, the jungle returned fully to its peaceful rhythm. Crickets chirped in harmony. Leaves rustled softly. A distant owl called once, then fell silent. Inside the hut, the warmth grew stronger. Not from the fire, not from the lantern, but from something invisible. Care. The deer slowly lowered its body onto the blanket. Its thin legs folded beneath it. Its breathing became deeper, more even. Its large eyes blinked slowly. Mira placed her hand gently along its back,
feeling the small, steady rhythm of its heartbeat. "It's exhausted," she said softly. Daniel nodded. It must have been alone for hours. The thought hung in the air, lonely, cold, calling into the darkness, until the lantern answered. Oliver lay down on his stomach near the deer, careful not to crowd it. If its mother is looking for it, how will she find it? Daniel looked toward the lantern. Tomorrow we'll let the light guide us again. The flame shimmered slightly, almost knowingly. Time passed gently. The fire crackled quietly. Mira continued humming. Oliver's eyes began to grow heavy. The deer's breathing slowed further. Its eyelids dropped. It gave one final soft sigh. Then, slowly, it fell asleep. Not trembling, not crying, just resting, peacefully. The lantern's glow softened. Its work for the night was complete. Daniel adjusted the blanket once more around the small creature. "Kindness doesn't always fix everything in one night," he said quietly, "but sometimes it gives strength for tomorrow." Mira smiled. "And tomorrow we help it find home." Oliver reached out one last time and gently touched the deer's back. "Good night," he whispered. Outside, the moon rose higher. Its silver light filtered through the window. Fireflies drifted lazily past the glass. The jungle felt calm, balanced, as if it too was grateful. Inside the hut, 4 quiet heartbeats filled the warm space. 3 human, 1 small and fragile, all safe. The lantern burned softly above them, not bright, not dim, just steady. Because sadness had been found and warmth had been given. But somewhere deep in the jungle, another heart still searched in the night. And tomorrow, the lantern would shine once more. Rest your breathing slowly. Imagine the soft blankets, the warm golden light, the baby deer sleeping peacefully at last. Kindness has created shelter tonight, and with the morning, a journey will begin.
Morning arrived slowly in the glowing jungle. Soft, golden sunlight slipped through the wooden window. Mist floated lightly above the forest floor. Birds began their gentle morning songs. Inside the hut, the lantern still glowed faintly, even in daylight. Not bright, but watchful. The baby deer stirred on the blanket. Its ears twitched first. Then its eyes slowly opened. For a moment, confusion filled them. Then memory returned. The warm hut, the gentle voices, the golden light. It lifted its small head carefully. Daniel was already awake, sitting quietly near the door. Mira stirred warm milk near the fire. Oliver rubbed his sleepy eyes and immediately looked toward the deer. "It's awake," he whispered with a soft smile. The deer shifted slightly, testing its legs. Still weak, but stronger than last night. Daniel approached slowly. He offered fresh water again. This time, the deer drank more confidently. Its breathing was calm now, not panicked, but something was missing. Its eyes searched the room, then the door, then the window. Mira noticed. "It remembers," she said softly. Oliver nodded. "It wants its mother." The word mother hung gently in the morning air. Daniel stood and looked toward the lantern. The flame shimmered faintly, almost as if waiting. "If we're going to help," he said quietly, "we must go now, before the jungle grows busy." Mira wrapped a soft cloth gently around the baby deer's smallest scratches. Oliver packed a small pouch with water and fruit. Daniel opened the wooden door. Morning light spilled inside. The jungle looked different in daylight. Bright green leaves sparkled with dew. Butterflies drifted lazily between flowers. But even in daylight, the lantern began to glow brighter. Not as wild as the night before, but steady, purposeful. Daniel carefully lifted the baby deer again. It did not resist. It leaned gently against him.
trusting. The lantern's golden glow stretched beyond the doorway, faint but visible even in sunlight. They stepped into the forest. The jungle felt alive, warm, breathing, yet somewhere within it was a missing piece. The lantern flickered once, then leaned slightly toward the deeper trees. Daniel followed, step by careful step. Oliver walked beside him. Mira followed closely behind. The deer lifted its head occasionally, its ears turning, listening. They passed tall ferns and twisting vines. They crossed a shallow stream, cool water flowing over smooth stones. The lantern's glow reflected in the water like liquid gold. Birds flew overhead. Monkeys chattered softly in distant trees, but the lantern continued guiding them deeper. Then, the deer suddenly stiffened slightly in Daniel's arms. Its ears stood tall. It made a soft sound, not fear, recognition. The lantern flickered brighter. Daniel stopped walking. "Do you hear something?" Mira asked softly. At first, only wind. Then, a faint call, low, gentle, but filled with longing. The baby deer responded immediately with a small cry, stronger than before, hopeful. The lantern flared warmly. Daniel followed the sound toward a clearing ahead. The grass there was taller. Sunlight streamed through an opening in the canopy. And there, standing near the edge of the trees, was a full-grown doe. Her eyes wide, alert, searching, her body tense with worry. She stepped forward slowly, then froze when she saw the humans. The baby deer cried again. The sound echoed across the clearing. The mother deer's head lifted sharply. She took one cautious step closer, then another. Daniel knelt slowly to the ground. He lowered the baby deer gently onto the grass. For one brief second, everything was still. The mother hesitated. Then the baby deer stumbled forward. Its legs wobbled but held. It moved toward her. The mother moved too, careful, protective. Their noses touched. A soft sound passed between them. Relief, recognition. The baby deer pressed against her side. The mother gently nuzzled its neck, checking, reassuring. The lantern's glow softened, warmer, brighter than sunlight for a moment. Oliver felt his chest fill with quiet joy. "They found each other," he whispered. Mira smiled softly. "Yes." The mother deer looked toward the family, her eyes no longer fearful, but grateful. She stood calmly now, the baby deer safe beside her. Daniel slowly stood. They stepped back, giving space. The lantern's flame shimmered gently, its task complete. The mother deer turned toward the forest. She paused once, looking back briefly, then stepped into the trees. The baby deer followed closely beside her. Their shapes faded between leaves and light. And then they were gone. The clearing felt peaceful, balanced, whole again. The lantern dimmed slightly, not from weakness, but from satisfaction. Oliver looked up at his father. "Will the lantern glow again?" Daniel smiled softly. "Yes," he said, "whenever someone needs light." The jungle breeze moved gently through the trees. The river's distant whisper returned. Bird song filled the canopy. Kindness had walked into the forest and returned something precious. The family turned back toward their hut, the lantern glowing softly above them. Not urgent, not wild, just steady. Because sometimes the greatest light is not the one that shines the brightest, but the one that helps someone find their way home. Breathe slowly now. Imagine the reunion in the clearing, the warmth of relief, the quiet gratitude in the forest air. Kindness has completed its journey. But one final chapter remains.
The jungle felt different as the family walked back toward their wooden hut. Not louder, not brighter, but lighter, as if something invisible had been gently restored. The morning sun filtered through the tall trees in long golden beams. Dewdrops clung to leaves like tiny diamonds. Butterflies drifted lazily across their path. And above them, the lantern continued to glow, though now its light was soft and peaceful. Oliver walked quietly beside Daniel. He kept glancing back at the path behind them. "They'll be okay now," he said softly. Daniel nodded. Yes, they found each other. Mira smiled as she walked. The forest feels happier. And it did. The breeze moved more freely. The birds sang with brighter notes. Even the river's whisper seemed joyful. When they reached the hut, Daniel gently closed the wooden door. The familiar scent of warm wood and soft smoke welcomed them home. The lantern returned to its place in the center of the room. Its flame small now, calm, content. Oliver sat near the window, looking out at the trees. "Why does the lantern shine for sadness?" he asked quietly. Daniel sat down in the rocking chair. The wood creaked softly beneath him. "Maybe," he said thoughtfully, "it doesn't shine for sadness." Mira tilted her head. "Then what does it shine for?" Daniel looked at the golden glow above them. "It shines for kindness." The room grew still. The lantern flickered gently, almost agreeing. "It doesn't chase darkness away," Daniel continued softly. "It invites someone to bring warmth into it." Oliver thought carefully about those words. "So, the lantern doesn't solve the problem?" Mira smiled gently. "No," she said. "It reminds us that we can." The golden flame shimmered warmly. Outside, the jungle moved in peaceful rhythm. Life continuing, balanced again. Time passed quietly. That evening, as the sky slowly turned orange and pink, Oliver stepped outside the hut alone for a moment. The forest glowed softly in sunset light. He looked toward the deeper trees. Somewhere out there, the baby deer was walking beside its mother. Learning. Growing. Safe. He felt something warm inside his chest. Not pride. Not excitement. But something steady. Understanding. Kindness did not always roar like thunder. Sometimes it walked quietly. Sometimes it carried small, trembling lives. Sometimes it simply listened. As night began to fall again, the jungle shifted into its silver glow. The moon rose gently above the treetops. Fireflies returned, floating lazily in the warm air. Inside the hut, Mira prepared a simple dinner. Daniel added a little more oil to the lantern. Oliver sat cross-legged beneath it, watching the flame. It glowed softly, not bright, not urgent, just steady. He smiled. Tonight, no one nearby was crying. No frightened calls drifted through the trees. The jungle breathed calmly. But the lantern remained ready. Always ready. Because sadness sometimes appears without warning. And when it does, the light will flicker again. Later, as the family prepared for sleep, Mira cleaned the lantern glass gently. Daniel checked the door. Oliver climbed into his bed. The room filled with warm golden light. Comforting. Familiar. Safe. Before closing his eyes, Oliver whispered softly, "Thank you." Not to the lantern, not to the forest, but to the feeling that had guided them. The lantern flickered once, softly, almost like a quiet goodnight.
Outside, the jungle hummed its lullaby. Crickets sang gently. The river whispered. Leaves swayed in the cool night breeze. And deep within the trees, a mother deer rested beside her child. Both calm, both safe. Because one small hut, one old lantern, and one family chose to follow the light. And so the glowing jungle continued to shine, not because it had no darkness, but because whenever darkness appeared, someone answered it. The lantern burned gently above the wooden floor, warm, patient, kind. And in that little hut, in the heart of the forest, kindness became the brightest light of all.
Days passed peacefully in the glowing jungle. Morning light came and went. Sunsets painted the sky orange and rose. Fireflies returned each evening like floating stars. Inside the wooden hut, life felt warm and steady again. The lantern hung quietly from its wooden beam, its golden flame small, calm, watchful. But something was different now. Several nights passed, and the lantern did not flicker at all. Not even once. It glowed gently, steady, peaceful. Oliver noticed first. He sat beneath it one evening and tilted his head. "It hasn't called us again," he said softly. Mira smiled. "That means the forest is resting." Daniel added a small drop of oil to the lantern. "Or maybe," he said thoughtfully, "it means the forest is learning." Oliver looked curious. "Learning what?" Daniel leaned back in his chair. "That kindness spreads." The idea settled quietly in the room. Outside, the jungle hummed in soft harmony. Somewhere in the distance, deer hooves moved gently across leaves. Birds nested safely in branches. Even the wind seemed kinder. Oliver stepped outside the hut that night. The moon was full and bright. Silver light spilled across the forest floor. He listened carefully. No crying, no fear, only the steady breathing of the jungle. He felt proud, but not in a loud way, in a quiet way, because perhaps the baby deer had returned safely to its herd. Perhaps other animals had sensed safety near the hut. Perhaps kindness once given echoed further than they could see. Inside, the lantern flickered very softly. Not urgent, not bright, just alive. Daniel watched it closely. "Even when it's quiet," he said, "it's still listening." Mira nodded. "The lantern doesn't need to shine wildly every night." Oliver stepped back inside. He looked at the flame. "What if someday it never flickers again?" Daniel smiled gently. "Then we will know the forest has learned to care for itself." That night, the family slept deeply. The lantern glowed small and steady. Outside, the jungle was calm. But kindness does not end when the light grows quiet. It grows roots, invisible, strong. And sometimes it returns in ways we do not expect. One evening, many days later, a soft rain began to fall over the jungle. Not a storm, just gentle rain, each drop tapping quietly on leaves. The hut felt especially cozy that night. The fire crackled softly. The lantern glowed warmly. Oliver sat close to his parents, listening to the rain. "Papa," he asked softly, "where did the lantern come from?" Daniel smiled faintly. "It belonged to my grandfather," he said. "He once told me that it shines brighter when hearts choose kindness." Oliver looked up at the flame. "But how does it know?" Mira reached over and placed her hand gently on Oliver's chest. "Maybe," she said softly, "the light is not only inside the lantern." Oliver felt his heartbeat beneath her palm. Steady, warm. Daniel continued gently. The lantern doesn't create kindness, it reminds us of it. The rain grew softer. The jungle smelled fresh and clean. Oliver closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered the trembling baby deer, the reunion in the clearing, the quiet gratitude in the mother's eyes. And something wonderful happened. The lantern did not flicker wildly. It did not flare urgently, but its glow slowly became brighter, warmer. Not because someone nearby was sad, but because inside the hut, 3 hearts were full. Daniel noticed first. "It's shining," he whispered. Mira smiled knowingly. Oliver opened his eyes. The room was bathed in the richest golden light yet. Soft, peaceful, complete. Daniel leaned forward slightly. "Do you see?" he said gently. "The lantern shines brightest when we do." Outside, the rain stopped. Clouds parted slowly. The moon reappeared. Fireflies returned to the night air. And deep in the forest, the baby deer, now stronger, rested safely beside its mother. The jungle no longer felt like a place waiting for rescue. It felt like a place growing in kindness. The lantern's glow slowly softened again, returning to its steady flame, because its message had been understood. Kindness is not something we wait for. It is something we choose. And when we choose it, the world glows. The hut grew quiet. The fire dimmed. The lantern burned softly above them. Oliver drifted to sleep with a peaceful smile. Mira closed her eyes. Daniel listened one last time to the jungle's breathing. No sadness called that night. Only calm. Only balance. Only quiet gratitude. And in the heart of the glowing jungle, the smallest hut held the greatest light. Not because of magic, but because of kindness. And so the lantern remained, hanging patiently, listening gently, ready whenever needed, but knowing now that the brightest light of all lives within. Many quiet nights passed in the glowing jungle. The lantern remained steady. The forest breathed peacefully. But one evening, something subtle changed. It was not a cry, not a frightened sound, not even a flicker. It was the wind. The breeze that usually moved playfully between leaves felt restless, uneven. It brushed against the hut walls with a soft but unsettled rhythm. Inside, the family prepared for sleep. The lantern glowed calmly. Oliver paused near the window. "Do you hear that?" he asked softly. Daniel listened. The wind sighed again, longer this time. Not strong, not stormy, just lonely. Mira tilted her head. "It sounds like it's searching." The lantern flickered once. Not bright, not urgent, just aware. Daniel stepped outside the hut. The moonlight silvered the trees. Leaves swayed slowly, but the wind did not move freely. It circled, as if unsure where to go. Oliver joined him. "Can wind feel lonely?" he whispered. Daniel smiled gently. "Sometimes when something changes." The jungle had grown quieter in recent days. Animals felt safe. No frightened cries echoed. Perhaps the wind missed the movement of worry. Perhaps it missed carrying messages. The lantern flickered again, softly. Daniel closed his eyes and listened carefully. The wind brushed past his face, cool, searching. He spoke gently into the night. "If you are looking for something, rest here." The breeze shifted. It moved through the open door of the hut.
Inside, it circled the lantern. The flame swayed but did not go out. Instead, it glowed slightly brighter. Mira smiled softly. It just needed somewhere warm to pass through. The wind settled into a steady rhythm. No longer restless, no longer searching, it flowed naturally again between the trees, carrying the scent of flowers, carrying the whisper of leaves. Oliver watched quietly. "So even the wind can feel lost?" he said. Daniel nodded. "And sometimes being noticed is enough." The lantern returned to its steady glow. The wind softened into its usual gentle breath, and the jungle felt balanced again. That night, as the family drifted to sleep, the breeze moved kindly across the forest. Not lonely anymore, because even invisible things sometimes need warmth.
Many quiet nights passed in the glowing jungle. The lantern remained steady. The forest breathed peacefully. But one evening, something subtle changed. It was not a cry, not a frightened sound, not even a flicker. It was the wind. The breeze that usually moved playfully between leaves felt restless, uneven. It brushed against the hut walls with a soft but unsettled rhythm. Inside, the family prepared for sleep. The lantern glowed calmly. Oliver paused near the window. "Do you hear that?" he asked softly. Daniel listened. The wind sighed again, longer this time. Not strong, not stormy, just lonely. Mira tilted her head. "It sounds like it's searching." The lantern flickered once. Not bright, not urgent, just aware. Daniel stepped outside the hut. The moonlight silvered the trees. Leaves swayed slowly, but the wind did not move freely. It circled, as if unsure where to go. Oliver joined him. "Can wind feel lonely?" he whispered. Daniel smiled gently. "Sometimes when something changes." The jungle had grown quieter in recent days. Animals felt safe. No frightened cries echoed. Perhaps the wind missed the movement of worry. Perhaps it missed carrying messages. The lantern flickered again, softly. Daniel closed his eyes and listened carefully. The wind brushed past his face, cool, searching. He spoke gently into the night. "If you are looking for something, rest here." The breeze shifted. It moved through the open door of the hut. Inside, it circled the lantern. The flame swayed but did not go out. Instead, it glowed slightly brighter. Mira smiled softly. It just needed somewhere warm to pass through. The wind settled into a steady rhythm. No longer restless, no longer searching, it flowed naturally again between the trees, carrying the scent of flowers, carrying the whisper of leaves. Oliver watched quietly. "So even the wind can feel lost?" he said. Daniel nodded. "And sometimes being noticed is enough." The lantern returned to its steady glow. The wind softened into its usual gentle breath, and the jungle felt balanced again. That night, as the family drifted to sleep, the breeze moved kindly across the forest. Not lonely anymore, because even invisible things sometimes need warmth. The night in the glowing jungle grew deeper than ever before. Not darker, just softer. The moon rested high above the trees like a gentle guardian. Silver light flowed over leaves, over moss, over the winding river that whispered its endless lullaby. Inside the wooden hut, the lantern glowed with its familiar golden warmth. Not bright, not dim, just steady, patient, calm. Daniel, Mira, and Oliver sat together in comfortable silence. No one spoke for a while, because sometimes peace does not need words. The fire had faded into gentle embers. The air smelled of wood and night flowers. Outside, crickets sang in slow rhythm, like a soft heartbeat for the forest. Oliver looked up at the lantern. He no longer waited for it to flicker wildly. He no longer wondered if someone was crying. He understood something now. The lantern was not only a signal, it was a reminder that kindness is always ready, even when it is not urgently needed. Daniel's voice broke the quiet, soft and thoughtful. "Every light," he said gently, "has two purposes." Mira looked at him. "To guide?" she whispered. "And to comfort," he replied. The lantern shimmered faintly, as if agreeing. Oliver closed his eyes for a moment and listened. He listened to the river, to the leaves, to the wind moving gently between branches. There were no frightened sounds, no restless searching, no lonely cries. The jungle had grown, not bigger, but wiser. Animals moved with calm confidence. Birds nested without fear. Even the wind flowed smoothly, carrying warmth instead of worry. The baby deer, now stronger, no longer trembled at night. It had learned that the forest held both danger and kindness, and that kindness was stronger. Inside the hut, Mira stood and gently cleaned the lantern's glass one last time for the evening. The golden light became even softer, more peaceful. Daniel added a small drop of oil. The flame responded with a slow, graceful sway, not a flicker of urgency, just breathing, like a living thing. Oliver climbed into his bed beneath the window. The moonlight brushed across his blanket. He could see fireflies drifting lazily outside, tiny floating stars. He spoke softly into the quiet room. "Even if the lantern never flickers wildly again, I will still follow the light." Daniel smiled. "That is the promise," he said. The jungle exhaled gently, a long, peaceful breath, the kind of breath that comes after something has been healed. Time passed slowly, unrushed. The lantern's glow painted soft golden shapes along the wooden walls. The shadows were no longer long and dramatic. They were round, comforting. The hut felt like the safest place in the world, not because it was strong, but because it was kind, and kindness creates safety. The river outside continued its lullaby, water over stone, soft and steady. The wind brushed against the hut like a quiet goodnight. The leaves responded with gentle whispers, and in that quiet harmony, the lantern glowed slightly brighter, not because of sadness, not because of urgency, but because inside that little hut, 3 hearts were at peace. Daniel closed his eyes in the rocking chair. Mira lay down beside Oliver. Their breathing slowly synchronized. Slow in, slow out. The lantern swayed gently once, then steadied, as if standing watch. The jungle slept. The deer rested. The birds tucked their heads beneath their wings. Even the wind moved slower now, calmer, softer. And as the night deepened, the glowing jungle seemed to shine from within, not from magic, not from moonlight, but from the memory of kindness shared, because every act of care leaves a warmth behind, a warmth that lingers, a warmth that spreads quietly through roots and branches. The lantern did not need to blaze. It did not need to call out. Its promise had already been fulfilled. Kindness had become part of the forest, and the forest in return became gentler. Oliver's breathing grew slow and steady. Mira's hand rested lightly over his. Daniel's rocking chair no longer moved. The hut was wrapped in golden stillness. Outside, one last firefly drifted past the window, then another and another,
like soft floating dreams. The lantern's flame lowered slightly, not fading, just softening, like eyelids growing heavy. The river whispered one final lullaby for the night. The wind gave a tender sigh. The trees stood tall and protective, and in the heart of it all, the wooden hut glowed quietly, holding its gentle light, holding its promise that no matter how dark a night may seem, there is always warmth somewhere. There is always kindness waiting, and sometimes the light you are searching for is already inside you. Now take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders relax. Let your thoughts drift like fireflies. Imagine the lantern glowing softly above you. Imagine the calm jungle breathing around you. Feel the warmth. Feel the safety. Feel the peace. You are in a place where kindness watches gently, where nothing urgent calls, where everything rests. Let your breathing grow slower. Let the golden light wrap around you like a soft blanket. And as the lantern continues its steady glow, allow your eyes to close. Allow your mind to quiet. Allow your heart to feel calm. Sleep peacefully tonight. Sleep deeply. Sleep knowing that somewhere in a glowing jungle, a lantern shines softly, and kindness never fades. Good night.